So today we're going to take a look at the percentages topic and the past paper questions on percentages. So remember, you can find a selection of worksheets by topic on the National 5 Maths Applications website. So it's a really good place to go if you're looking for some topic specific exam questions. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these percentage questions. Some of these percentage type questions, okay, could be covered in other kind of areas as well, compound interest and things like that. Alright, these aren't limited. Okay, these aren't just the kind of percentage questions you're going to get. You're also going to have to deal with percentages in some other kind of cases. Okay, so question number 1. Alana takes out a loan of £4,500. The interest plus the administration fee is 7.5% of the loan amount, so that's the extra. The total amount will be paid back in 9 monthly instalments. Calculate the monthly payment. This is paper 1, so it's non-calc. Okay, so first of all, I want to try and find out 7.5% of 4,500. A couple of ways that I could go about doing this, and this is non-calc. You've got to kind of think, well, how can I get that 7.5%? Well, I could work out 10%. From 10%, I could divide it by 4 to get 2.5%. Take that off. That would be one way. I could also maybe try and convert it into a decimal. I could also maybe treat it as a fraction. So there's a couple of ways. What I'm going to do, because I've kind of noticed that this is quite a nice number because we've got zeros at the end. Okay, that's kind of let me know that if I turn this into a decimal, I'm going to kind of be able to deal with it. Okay, but we could do it in a couple of number of ways. So I'm just going to try and do 0.075. That's me made it into a decimal. And I'm going to times it by 4,500. Right? Now, what you can maybe notice there is that that would be the same as doing 0.075 times 45 times 100. Hopefully you can see that. Right, and that's where I kind of looked at the zeros and saw that. So what I'm going to do now is 0.075 times 100. Move the decimal point 2 places, so it's going to be 7.5 times 45. Okay, now again, what that means there is I can do 7 times 45 and then add on 0.5 times 45. Okay, because remember, that's when we can split our numbers up like that. So 7 times 45, well, hopefully you can maybe try and do that, something like that in your head. Okay, so 7 times your 40, 7 times your 5, add them together. So 7 times 45 is going to be 315. Okay, but you can set out a sum to do that. And then 0.5 times 45, well, that there is just the same as half of. Okay, that's what 0.45 means. 0.25 would be a quarter of, 0.75 would be 3/4 of, and so on. Right, so those are kind of common ones to know. So I'm just looking for a half of 45 and a half of 45. Again, set out a wee sum if you wanted to do that, but a half of 45 is just going to be 22.5. Right, and then adding those together, again, if you can't do that in your head, just make sure that you're doing working for it. That's going to be 337.5. Okay, it'll be 50 because we're talking about money. So the actual amount to pay back, okay, is obviously going to be the loan amount, which was 4,500 that we started with, plus that percentage that we're adding on, so 337.50. Again, if you need to do a sum at the side, just do that, right? But hopefully this is a quite straightforward one. So it's going to be £4,837.50, right? Just adding the 3 onto the 5, the 3 onto the 0, 7 onto the other 0, and so on. So that's the amount to pay back, and it's getting paid over 9 equal payments. So I'm just going to try and divide that by 9. Again, this is going to be one that you do need a sum for, okay? So make sure you're comfortable with doing division sums of that kind of type when we're dealing with decimals. So I'm dividing this by 9, set out my sum, 4837.50, and I'm dividing that by 9. Okay, I can get 5 9s into 48. I'm going to have 3 left over. I can only fit 3 into that. 3 times 9 is 27. So I've got 6 left over. I can fit 7 lots into that, and I'll have 4 left over. Make sure you keep the decimal point in. How many 9s fit into 45? It's 5. Okay, so one payment, and I could just put a wee therefore. One payment, or each payment, is just going to be equal to £537, and it would be 50. Make sure you put in that 0 at the end, alright? 2 decimal places for any money. Okay, next question. Question 2. Sam buys a rare stamp for his stamp collection at an auction. He buys the stamp for £920. The stamp increased in value by 7% for the first 2 years, and then decreased in value by 4% the third year. Work out what it was worth after 3 years. Make sure the answers to 3 significant figures. This is actually compound interest, if you like, okay, because you're going to need to add the percentages on, add the start of the new amount each year. Okay, you're not just doing 7% for the starting value. That would then compound into the next year and so on. Okay, so this is a wee bit of compound interest. This is a paper 2 question as well. So when we're dealing with percentages, but it's calculator, what you normally do is make it into decimals, right? So what we're going to do is deal with the first 2 years. Okay, so I'm increasing in value by 7%, so the multiplier for that would be 1.07. Okay, turn this into 0.07 and then add it on to 1, because that's what we always start with. This one is actually for 2 years, so I can have a wee power there of 2, because remember what you would be doing is multiplying 920 by 1.07, but then you'd be doing it again for the next year, so that's just squaring it. Okay, so that'll tell us how much it's worth after 2 years. So this is calculator. So you're just going to do in your calculator, and I'll grab my calculator just now, 1.07 squared, and then times 920. And for that I'm getting this 1053.309. Now what I'm just going to do just now, I'm just going to keep it, alright, because we're told to round at the end, so I'm just going to keep it like that just now. Okay, and then in the third year, we are told that it decreases by 4%. 4% is 0.04. Remember, you just divide by 100, and if it's decreasing, I'm going to do 1 take away 0.04, so that would be 0.96. It's only for 1 year, this one, so there's no power, and it's times the amount we finished off with after 2 years. Make sure you're comfortable with that, right? Compound interest, you're using the value you finished off with, or you started the year with. Put that in the calculator, so it's 0.96 times 0.96, and I'm getting 1011.175 ... and in the question we were told to round it to 3 significant figures. That's significant, that's significant, that's significant, so that's a third one there. It's 1, so that means it will stay the same. So it'll be 101, and then the rest will just be 0. So that's it rounded to 3 significant figures, and that's our answer for that one. Okay, question number 3. Denisa bought 375 shares for £4.50 per share. She later sold them all for £5.20 per share, but she had to pay commission of 2.7%. Commission is money that gets taken off you. Alright. calculate her total profit. So a couple of things we need to do here. Right, profit involves an original and then the new price. That's what we need to work out the profit. So what we need to do is work out what she originally bought it for. Okay, and it was 375 shares for £4.70. So 375 shares for £4.50, I think I should say. Okay, this is calculator. Pop that in your calculator. 375 times £4.50, or just 4.5. That's going to give you 1687.5. Okay, so that's what she bought them for. Okay, now let's work out what she sold them for. But remember, when she sells them, she has to pay commission, so 2.7% is going to be removed. Right, so first of all, still 375 shares, but this time she sold them for £5.20. So let's work out how much she actually sold them for. 375 times £5.20 is 1,950. Okay, nice and easy when it's a calculator paper. We can just use our calculator, making sure we're getting these sums correct. Okay, so she sold them for 1,950, but she had to pay 2.7% commission. So to work out what the multiplier is, okay, I'm going to make this into a decimal. And remember, you always start off with 1. So if she's paying commission, that's going to be subtracting. So do it in your calculator if you, do you know what I mean? Make sure you don't make this, get a mistake here. So it's 0.973, and that's what we're timesing this by. Okay, because that's what she's going to be left with. Obviously, you could do 0.027 times this amount and then subtract. Probably much easier to do this in one step. So this will tell you what they actually sold for, or how much money the person actually received, and that is 1897.35. What I should say, I've just noticed, I've not put a 0 on that first one. Make sure you're always doing it to 2 decimal places. And then to work out what the actual profit is, okay, let's just do the new, take away the original. Okay, whatever she kind of got for them, take away what she paid for them originally. So 1897.35, take away the original, 1687.50. Okay, in the calculator, take away 1687.50. So I'm getting that the profit she made was 209.85. Okay, so only just the one kind of wee bit of percentages in there, but just make sure you're comfortable with words like commission. It's something that you pay, and you're comfortable with profit because that's the extra money that you make. Okay, question number 4. Ian buys a new sofa. The original price was £700. The shop is having a sale with 25% off the price of all sofas. When he goes to the shop, he finds that there's an additional 5% off the sale price. Calculate the price Ian pays for the sofa. Now, if it said something like 25% off all sofas and then another 5% off the original price, all you would need to do is add the 2 percentages together. But what it says here is you're getting 5%, an extra 5% off the sale price. So that makes it a little bit different. What you've got to do is work out 25% off the original price and then a 5% off that new price that you've calculated. So first thing we're going to do is kind of work out what the sale price was and then take 5% off that. This is a paper 1 question, right? So we're going to have to deal with these percentages non-calc. So 25% of the original price, which is £700. 25% should be straightforward. That's just a quarter of 700. Okay, and a quarter of 700, do a sum if you want. Okay, can fit 1 4 into 7. Left with 3. I can then fit 4 times 7. Okay, 4 times 7 is 28. I've got 2 left over, so it's 175. And remember that 175 is coming off. So what the sale price is going to be 700 take away 175. Okay, hopefully you can do that without setting out a sum, but if you need to, just do that. So it's going to be 525. And now I'm getting 5% off this. Okay, so I'm going to find 5% of stopped drawing for some reason. There we go. 5% of 525. Okay, how do I find 5%? Well, I could find 10% and then half it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find 10% of 525. Oops. Okay, to find 10%, I could also just find 1 multiplied by 5. It's up to you. Okay, to find 10%, divide it by 10. So it's going to be 52.50. I'm just going to put the extra decimal point in. So then to find 5%, I would then divide by 2 to get 5%. Okay, so to get 5%, divide it by 2. Again, if you need to do a sum, just do that, but hopefully you can see that half in that is going to give you £26.25. Okay, but if you need to do a sum, just do that. So that's me got the amount that's coming off. So the actual price, okay, calculate the price Ian pays, so we'll just call this the price paid, is going to be, that was 5% and it was coming off 525. So 525 take away £26.25. Okay, again, if you need to do a sum, you can do that. Take away 26.25, and if I take off 26 and then take off the 0.25, that's going to give me 498.75. Okay, but obviously you can just set out a sum if you needed to do that, and it was 26.25. Make sure you add extra decimal points in, and you can do it like that. Okay, either way, just make sure you know how to do that. So that's the end of that question. Next one. David sat a class test. His results are shown in the table below. So in paper 1, the marks available were 35 and he got 80%. And in paper 2 it was 65 and he gets 60. Calculate the number of marks that he got in paper 1. Well, if there was 35 marks available, so this is part A. If there was 35 marks available and he get 80% of that, I just need to work out 80% of 35. Now be careful because this is a non-calc paper, it's paper 1. So I need to find 80% of 35. Right, now a couple of ways I could do it. I could try and think, well, what's 80% as a fraction? It's 80 over 100. Okay, it's 8 over 10. It's also 4 over 5. But I could do, to find 80%, I could keep it as 8 over 10, divide by 10 times by 8 and so on. Okay, lots of ways we could do that, but I'm just going to rewrite that as a simplified fraction. So I'm doing 4/5 of 35. To do that, divide by the bottom, times by the top. 35 divided by 5 is 7 times 4, it's going to be 28. So that's the amount of marks that you got for this one. So you get 28 marks. Right. Part B says, what was his overall percentage? Right? So his overall percentage is going to be the number of marks that he got over the total number. So we work out a percentage. What amount did you get out of the total? So what we need to do is actually work out how many marks did he get for paper 2. We know how many marks he got for paper 1. Let's work out how many marks he got for paper 2, add them together, and then do that over the total. And remember, you kind of convert it into percentage. You're technically timesing by 100. Okay, but we might be able to tell just by looking at the fraction. Right, so let's go and work out how many marks we're getting in paper 2. So it was 60%, I believe, of 65. Okay, so again, this one here, 60% is 3/5. If you simplify that down, so I'm doing 3/5 of 65. Divide by 5. Divide 65 by 5. Okay, just make sure you take your time. You would get 13 times 13 by 3, and you would get 39. Okay, just make sure I've tried to save a bit of space, just make sure you're comfortable with doing that. Divide by the bottom times by the top. So the total marks that they got, okay, so I'll just call this marks awarded. That's going to be 39 plus the 28 that you got before. 39 plus 28 is going to be 67, and he got 67 out of a total that we can work out just now. 35 plus 65, well that's actually dead easy, isn't it? Okay, total marks for this one. It's just 35 plus 65. And that's actually just 100. So 67, so his percentage is going to be 67 out of 100. Okay, and that's obviously just 67%. When it's non-calc, a lot of the time we'll just be able to tell from the fraction you're looking at. Okay, but what you're technically doing is 67 divided by 100 times by 100, so the 200s would cancel. So that's us got that question there sorted. Okay, question 6, last one. Vary bought 200 shares for £700. She decides to sell them, but the share price has dropped to £2.75 per share. She also has to pay a fee of 2.5% of her selling price when she sells the shares. Calculate the loss that she made. So this is similar to one we did before. To find a loss, I'm going to need to know what did she buy them for originally, and what did she sell them for. Okay, so they were bought for £700, I already know that. So let's work out how much they were sold for. Right, £2.75 per share, 200 shares. Non-calculator, this is paper 1. Hopefully you can see that that's just the same as timesing by 2 and timesing by 100. Okay, do this either way. £2.75 times 2 is going to be £5.50. Yeah, if you're not comfortable with that, just make sure you set out a sum. So that would be £5.50 times 100. Move the decimal point 2 places. So that's going to be £550. Okay, but she had to pay a fee of 2.5% of the selling price. Okay, had to pay 2.5% of the selling price. So, how am I going to find 2.5% of 550? And I'll do that over here. 550. Right, now, I could turn it into a decimal. Maybe try that. I could also think what percentage could I work out and then get 2.5% from that as well. Right, couple of things that I could do really. What I'm going to do is work out 10% of 550. To work out 10%, I just divide by 10. So that's going to be 55. How do I go from 10% to 2.5%? What do I need to do? Well, I need to divide by 4. What you could also do is find 5%, but then you know to find 5% you would have to half again, so that would be the same as dividing by 4. So I'm going to do that to both sides if you like, and I'm going to do 55 divided by 4. Okay, I'm just going to set out a wee sum for that. 55 divided by 4. 1, carry the 1, 3, and there's going to be extra zeros that need added in. So 4 times 3 was 12, so I've got 3 left over, so that's going to be 7. And then I'm going to have 2 left over, and that one works out as 5. So it's going to be £13.75 that she's paying of commission. So let's say the actual sale price is going to be £5.50. Take away that value we worked out of £13.75. So £5.50, take away £13.75. Take off 13 would be 537. Take off that 0.75 would be 536.25. Make sure you set out sums, right, if you need to. I'm just trying to save space. So that's what she actually sold them for. We're asked to work out the loss. So the loss is just the original take away the new price, right? It's just the difference between those two numbers. She bought them for 700 and she sold them for that, 536.25. Set out a sum if you need to. Okay, if you can do that in your head, excellent, but just make sure you can set out a sum. I'll just show that at the side just in case. Make sure you line up the decimal points as well. Do the sum. Okay, and what you're going to end up with, 700 take away 536.25, that's going to be £163.75. Okay, but you can just do a sum if you can't work that out in your head. Okay, so that's us took a look at a couple of percentage questions, a mixture of non-calc and calc. What you've probably noticed from the calculator questions, they are quite heavy. The non-calculator questions, they are quite tricky. Make sure that you're comfortable with your non-calculator work. Your timesing by multiples of 10, 100. Knowing how to find 2.5% from say 10%. And so on, and being comfortable with adding and subtracting decimals.